Okay, so recently I was going through a situation in my life that I didn't really like, and I was telling my mom about it. And we were trying to get me motivated and be like back on track again. And then my mom tells me this: it's good that you're not being so negative right now, because when you think positive, positive things happen to you. And when she told me that, I was like, okay, whatever, I'll try to believe this. But after a bit of reflection and days passing by, I was like, why would you tell me this? Like, so you're telling me that I was going through the rough patch in my life recently because of myself, because I was thinking negatively, therefore I attracted these negative emotions. Which I was like, there's no way you're telling me this right now. Like, I love my mom, but like, just that line of thought in general that preaches that you attract what you think, and therefore you are to blame for your problems, and your thoughts and emotions are to blame for your problems, because if you vibrate in a low frequency, then it's your issue that you attract problems into your life. So because of this like contradiction I was having in my head of like, yeah, sure, you attract what you think, but also isn't that like bad to say? Because yeah, I asked my friends, and I was arguing for what I just said, that is like very tone deaf and weird, just saying that people are to blame for the struggles they go through. And let me go on a tangent here, but I remember once I was in the bus just going back to my house from school, and I hear a girl who was a friend say that yes, you attract what you think, and you are in the power of manifesting everything in your life, and that cancer patients were to blame for their own illness because they attracted the illness into their life. And I was like, there's no way you just said that. And she was like, it's true, but it's good because they also have a way to eliminating the illness by thinking positively and vibrating in a more high frequency. And I just think that's just very disrespectful. And I've been thinking a lot about the law of attraction, and I've had moments throughout my life where I think that is true, and then that it's not true, and manifesting is bullshit, and then it's not bullshit because I still try it. But it's just like things like that, like illnesses or earthquakes or just struggles that really like change your life. How can you say that you attracted that to your life? I just think it's very like gaslight-y thinking to blame people for their own issues. Like, how are cancer patients to blame that for their own illness, for their own life-threatening illness? I think it's just very disrespectful. So this leads me to think that out of all of this new age spirituality movement, the law of attraction is kind of losing its credibility in my mind. And it has been losing its credibility ever since I heard about it. I was like, there's no way, but also there is a way, because sometimes you want to hold out hope that you can manifest anything you want, anything you want into your life. That is just like a basic human desire. So on one side, this whole premise or like idea that you attract what you think, I think it's like you're gaslighting people by telling them that. And also, I think it leads people to suppress bad emotions, because if you are going through a rough patch and you are thinking like negatively, which you naturally will because you're going through a struggle, you're going to try to suppress these bad emotions that are completely natural and healthy to have, just in the name of not attracting anything bad into your life, which I think is extremely toxic, because when you suppress your emotions in any way, shape, or form, it's gonna be really bad for your health. You're gonna have some side effects that are not really healthy for you. You're gonna cause stress, you're gonna cause anxiety, you're gonna cause a lot of things because you suppress these bad emotions. And I think emotions are simply natural things that happen. And if you feel anger, it's not bad. You're just feeling it. But the law of attraction doesn't agree, because they say if you feel anger or if you feel sadness, then you will attract anger and sadness into your life, which is beyond me. I don't believe that. However, I also get the idea that thinking positively will make your life more positively. I don't necessarily think that you attract things into your life, but it all depends on the perspective you have. And of course, if you're going through a rough time, I don't expect anybody to think positively and be like jolly. Hey, like when it hits you, and you have to go through your emotions to get over them and to process everything that's happening to you. However, I do think that there's a limit to how negative you can be, and it is always better if you can go through those emotions but also have a positive outlook on life. For the most part, like I've met some friends who are just very negative, and even if like they're living such a lucky life, but they're being so negative about little things, and they're just miserable because their negative thinking makes them see everything in a negative light, which is never going to help them. So I don't believe in the law of attraction. I don't believe that you attract what you feel or what you think, because that just doesn't enable you to think or feel bad thoughts or emotions, which is completely toxic. I don't think you attract what you think or feel, but I do think that the quality of your life does depend on the perspective you hold. And if you have motivation, you will achieve your goals. So that's just a personal belief of mine. If you want to believe in manifestation and the law of attraction, that's okay. But I think with this bad situation I went through and the thoughts I've been having, I just stopped believing in it. However, I do believe that thinking positively and just having a positive outlook will make you happier. And one thing I do like about the law of attraction is that it makes you motivated, and it makes you believe that you can achieve your goals. And even though I don't think you attract your goals into your life, I think that with the motivation that the law of attraction might give you, you can achieve them by your own doing. But then, with the law of attraction being discussed, now I want to move on. Like, I discussed all of this with my friend. Okay, going back. I discussed all of this with my friend, and I thought about all of this. And in one part of the discussion, I came to the conclusion that everything just happens for a reason, and we all have a fate that we fulfill, and we don't necessarily have a lot of control over it, and that everything is meant to happen when it will happen, And I told her this in my processing of this whole topic, because I have plans for myself that I have hope for, and I believe that will happen, and I want to achieve. And a thing that makes me calm, because these plans haven't happened yet, is that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen, and that everything in my life has happened for a reason for me to achieve these plans, and that there's some kind of fate involved in my life. That's the point of the argument I reached, right? But also, how valid is that line of thought? Maybe some things just happen and that's it. Like earthquakes happen, wars happen, illness happens. So, like, what is the reason for that to happen? Even though in my little lucky life I've had, where none of these things have happened to me, I'm like, yeah, everything happens for a reason. But what if something that literally changes your life completely, and not in a good way, happens to you? You cannot argue anymore that it happened for a reason. It just happened, and you were just there when it happened. Imagine an earthquake happens, or just a natural disaster happens, and you suffer because of it. What is the reason for that to happen? Or an illness happened. Sometimes there's no reason for things to happen. So, like, even if it comforts me in my personal life, in my very lucky life, to believe that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen, some things just happen for no reason. And some things just end. Some things like war, a lot of lives have ended. And then this led me to think, now on my own, because I'm not discussing with a friend anymore, this led me to think, like, okay, but what are the reasons God and the universe have for this to happen? And I've discussed this before with some other people, but this is used as an argument for saying that God or the universe don't exist, and that life just is chaos and life just is. And however, I do understand this argument. I do understand it. Like, if God and the universe are so good and they're so just, they want justice for everybody, why do so many people get hurt in the world? And that's a very like popular argument I've heard amongst a lot of people when we discuss religion and fate and justice, like, and life in general. It's like, even acknowledging what I just said, I don't fully stop believing in God or in the universe. Personally, I do believe in God. It's my own version. It's not like the traditional version that there is in a lot of religions, because I don't necessarily agree with the values, but it's my own version. And even with what I just said, that life just is chaos sometimes, or life is chaos, point, period, blank, it still doesn't make me lose faith in God. And I really don't know why. And I was just in the shower and I started thinking about this, and I was like, I don't know. I think life is just so beautiful, and humanity is beautiful, or can be. It can also be very ugly, as we can tell. But when you look around and you see your community and you see people on the street, like people you don't know, and you see people dancing and singing and laughing with their friends, I just think life is so beautiful. And we've created so many beautiful things, like art, poetry, music. And nature is beautiful too. Animals are so cute. They're so beautiful. And animals and humans alike like feel so many emotions that are just magical. And as I said before, like, we've created so many things in the name of emotion, like art, like visual arts, or like music or poetry or literature, that make us feel so much, like such complex emotions that are so magical and hard to explain. And we literally exist, and that is so insane to me, that it still doesn't make me lose faith in God, or like a higher plan. Not a higher plan, but like just that there's a higher being looking over everybody, or like a higher force. Like, even with that argument, that is very valid and very true and very logical thinking, and like, just, it can't be debated that life is chaos and life happens, and we have no control a lot of times over what life is. Something like life at the same time is just so magical sometimes, and the connections we have to some people, and the relationships we have, and just like some things are just so magical that it still doesn't make me lose faith. And it's still, and this magic that I feel, and I think everybody also feels, I think it can't be fit into this idea that life is just chaos and life just happens. Like, it just gives me the feeling that there's a higher power, and that like there's a worldwide connection we have to each other, that it can't be explained by life is chaos and nothing matters and life is meaningless. I don't, So I'm out here just wondering what life is. And at the same time, to add to that thought, like, we exist. Like, how were we created? Where did we come from? Like, someone or something literally had to create us, like a higher power. So yeah, I don't think that life is just meaningless, and we're here out of pure coincidence, and the connection we feel to others and to humanity as a whole is just a coincidence. I don't believe in that. So I'm just here thinking about life, and I'm confused, but for now, I've come to the conclusion that I think most of life is chaos, and I think most things happen just because they happen. Like, imagine you got very lucky. I think you were just in the moment at that time. Like, you were in the place and time for when that lucky thing happened to you, and you were lucky enough for the thing to happen to you. I think most things are coincidences, but at the same time, I also think that life is very magical, and I think that there is a higher power that makes us feel these deep emotions and deep connections to everything and everybody around us, and that makes life just so magical, because life is magical, or can be. I'm not trying to say that life is always magical, because I know it's not. I know there's a lot of war and bad things happening around us and suffering that happens to everybody, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of happiness, or maybe magic that can't really be explained by the thought or the line of thought that life is meaningless. So I think that just the fact that we feel such deep emotions and such complex emotions, and we've created such like amazing things with our brains, like we have a lot of buildings, machines, technology, ways of helping other people. On the flip side, we have a lot of things that are really bad for humanity that we have also created. But I just think the complexity of humanity and the human mind and human creativity is just too magical to be explained by life is meaningless. And at the same time, I just think it's so hard to explain with a logical brain how we all have different passions and different callings. Like, to me, that makes me think that we all have a different purpose. Do you understand? Like, we all have also different talents, different skills in different areas. And I don't think that can be explained by, oh, it just is what it is. Like, life is just chaos, life is just meaningless. I think I come to a different conclusion now. I've had a realization. Even though I do think life can be chaos, and life, a lot of things happen just out of pure luck and coincidence, I do think that we all have a purpose in the world. Maybe we just have the purpose and we just have the passion. Maybe some people are more lucky than others and life is just chaos, and there's not necessarily a time where things are supposed to happen and everything doesn't happen for a reason. But I do think that there's magic in humanity and that all of us have a purpose and a calling. However, I don't think everybody's going to be lucky enough to fulfill it. But I do think that the purpose we have and the passion we feel for a lot of things and for life makes life that much more magical and makes me believe that there is a God or a universe, however you want to call it. But there's a higher power. And yeah, that was just like my little life thought. I was just like really thinking about it, and I had to say it out loud. And even if this is messy, by first discussing the law of attraction a bit, and then how just that can be debunked easily, and then discussing how fate plays a part in our lives and how that can also be debunked easily, and then go into the argument that God doesn't exist, and also how I personally think that that can also be debunked kind of easily because life is magical. And then my conclusion, which is also very confused, but that's what I think for now. Yeah, goodbye.